especially when you're talking about electronic music that can often be quite repetitive. It's a lot about how you make those little subtle things and add those little subtle parts that, or maybe they're not even that subtle, but just, things that automation or just like, little one shots or things here and there that can just keep things exciting.
This episode is being supported by Tape It, the iPhone recording app made for musicians by musicians. And in terms of using that vocal and playing with it, is that just trial and error and just kind of, or does it, I guess maybe, does it also change when you start putting things with it?
Sometimes for sure, like I think, often like it'll be an arrangement thing for me, I think more so. So like I might kind of start, like, I can't remember exactly what happened with this tune because it was a while ago, but a possible thing that might have happened based on what often happens to me is that I might have just like had the vocal far too frequent, and then it's just it clutters the whole sort of tune. So then you find like little spaces, like, do you know what I mean? Like then you can kind of mess around with delays and chops and things, whereas I wouldn't have done this before. But like if you're, there's little things like,
so we've now moved into what ended up being the version that is on the record.
Exactly, yeah. But just chopping things around and just keeping it interesting, so it's not just too kind of one-dimensional. Kept it more interesting, but still kind of retaining the source sound, which is just a really great sample. Yeah,
totally. And but the interesting thing about so many of your tracks is that they develop and change a lot over the course of the track. So while some things may stay the same, or in theory stay the same, like that vocal sample, that's our little hook.
Yeah.
But the track builds and changes quite a lot over the time. Like it's almost as if each section has a tiny little embellishment that keeps us excited and interested.
For sure. I think that's it. Like that's a lot about what keeps it interesting, especially when you're talking about electronic music that can often be quite repetitive. It's a lot about how you make those little subtle things and add those little subtle parts that, or maybe they're not even that subtle, but just, things that automation or just like, little one shots or things here and there that can just keep things exciting, so that you've kind of like got the core of this tune is really just like some chords, a bass line and a vocal, like with so many songs, but it's all the other little bits and how you build and the automation that you add and all that sort of stuff, that's where the kind of magic happens. That's kind of what I mean. I think a lot of the time the first sort of pieces of things they're kind of formed straight away, but then it's like what you do with that afterwards that then makes it more exciting.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
This episode is being supported by our good friends at Tape It, the iPhone app made specifically for musicians. If you, like many of our guests, use voice memos, then as far as we're concerned, switching to Tape It is an obvious choice. It's free, and there are a load of features you won't find on Apple's Voice Memos app, including the ability to record straight from your lock screen, set markers, add notes, include photos of settings, and you can easily import your old voice notes, sync to the cloud, and create shared playlists with co-writers and bandmates. So head to the link below to install the app now. And if you want even more, check out Tape It Pro and use the promo code TAPENOTES to receive a whopping 20% off. And now, back to the episode.
I think what this tune does quite well is finding that space. Like so much of when you're making music is about what's not there. Actually, like it's like if you want to make like a drop impactful, a lot of the time it's actually about how sparse it is beforehand. So that is kind of, I'm sure there's like there's a quote by, I can't remember who it is. I think it's like maybe Frank Lloyd Wright, an architect. He says, "Space is the breath of art," and that's honestly, I think that is so true when it comes to music. It's so much about what isn't there, and that's what helps. Like that moment when that kicks in and it kind of drops is actually not that big, but because it's kind of been built from like almost nothing beforehand, and it's reduced right down to the strings.
And the strings in the middle, take it right down again, and then goes up. Yeah, I think working with I completely agree with you, and like having dynamics. I often take tracks down to like silence and like more clubby tracks because it's just kind of shocking and it can be a bit awkward when you're DJing. And
I was about to say, the amount of times I've played your tunes early on when it was quieter shows and like it drops to nothing, and I'm like,
you need a dove siren there to like doing the silent bit.
You do love doing that, but it works. It really works. You sort of take everything back down to nothing, and then it just makes it more impactful. Just having It's just so much.
Can
about
I just say
space.
that's just terrible technique, which just happens to work in the real world. That's not me. Like they would never teach that in this. It's more that that I've just noticed that thing happens, and I think that's what I like to do.
It works.
Yeah.
But not even just in like drops or bills, in everything. Like it's all about space. I think so much of it is about
That is
what's
such
not there.
a great statement from Frank Lloyd Wright,
Yeah,
isn't it?
I think I might have misquoted it. I might have got the wrong point, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is, and it's so true with everything when it comes to creativity. I mean, obviously he would have been talking about it in terms of architecture, so I mean you can apply it to anything, but it's true.
Even what we were just talking about with the kind of space there, we're really taking our time with that outro. I think some people in music, people are definitely conscious of DSP and streaming, and how can I, how long does this tune need to be, and we need to do edits so it's shorter and it captures the attention quicker. And I think actually just ignoring that and like, what is actually the best thing to do for this tune? And my favorite bit is definitely this outro, which really takes its time, and this sort of dissonant pad from Slate and Ash is just. Yeah, I just love that. I thought it was worth mentioning.
Yeah,
it's just
definitely.
such a
Beautiful sound.
Yeah,
I think you're right when it comes to the DSP thing is so true, and it's something that's really. It's hard to navigate, I guess, especially if you're a new artist. I think what do you do? Because as much as I completely agree, like, and we're like, we're in a room as music lovers and people who are obsessed with music, and we're going, like let those things have their space. But there's also a reality of like, if you're a new artist and you need to grab people's attention straight away, like what do you do? It's tough. I think even with this tune, I feel like we talked a bit about finding that balance, and I think I feel like maybe at the start the intro took a lot longer originally to get into it, and we kind of got to the point quicker because the reality of that, but then also recognizing that there are actually still moments though when you can draw it out, and there's a string section in the middle where it's pretty much just strings, or there's the outro, and you can have those moments. So it's always about finding a balance, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think some of the stuff we did in the intro was the right decision, cutting some of that. It's finding where to let something breathe.
Exactly.
And where to not. Don't be afraid if you're talking about the new producer stuff. I mean, it must be a minefield.
Yeah, totally.
Really, because of how fast everything's moving now, and it's like, get a 2-minute edit of this song or whatever.
Nightmare. And like everything's like, people's attention spans are so short, and like it's all like algorithm based. So it's like if people aren't engaging with your music in the first whatever seconds, then like what do you do? So it's annoying. It's kind of frustrating.
But I do think, creatively you've got to put that aside
for sure,
for always, and just do what sometimes the best thing for the idea will be to cut some bits out anyway.
That's also true. I think sometimes a lot of the time, like just being ruthless and like really like not too self-indulgent is like it is important, because I think a lot of times when you're producing and you listen to a lot of stuff, you can get very self-indulgent with things, and actually sometimes just being ruthless with it and going, I'm just getting rid of that whole section and getting to that point, because it actually does make the tune better. It's not just, I agree, you don't want to be making these decisions based on the algorithm or this, but actually a lot of the time really stripping something and just getting rid of something is actually the best creative decision.
I can't believe how long like some of my previous tracks, sort of pre-COVID tracks, how long I drew out intros for, or like just random bits in the middle. I was like, God, that's so indulgent, and like, does that really add anything? But I don't know. I think something happened over COVID where everything got shorter, attention spans got shorter, and whatever. But
I think it works with those tunes, though. I think, again, it's whatever works for the tunes. I think the only examples that I'm thinking about when I've got rid of things have been because it's genuinely made those tunes better and just a bit more immediate, which I think is not for those tunes that work.